The plate shattered before anyone could breathe. Under the bright chandelier of their marble dining room, Adrian Cole dressed sharply, tie loosened, voice full of pride, slammed his hand on the table. "You think I work all day to come home to this garbage?" His wife Hannah, 7 months pregnant, stood frozen, her trembling hands still holding the fork. The guests around the table went silent. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air, but all anyone could taste was shame. Mrs. Cole, his mother, looked away. The neighbors invited for dinner pretended not to see, but everyone heard what came next. Adrian leaned close, his words low but slicing. "You're nothing but dead weight. Not a wife, just an obstacle." Then he slapped her. Right there, in front of everyone. Her body staggered, her eyes glassed with tears. But she didn't cry. Not this time. Because what no one knew, not the mother who told her to endure, not the neighbors who whispered behind drawn curtains, not even the woman he beat her to impress, was that the weak woman he humiliated every Monday night had something Adrian could never imagine. A secret her late father buried deep inside a trust. A deal worth $10 billion. A storm waiting to rise. And the very empire Adrian thought he owned was already written in her name. She looked up that night, her face bruised but calm, and whispered to herself, "If they think I'm broken, they don't know me at all." But here's the question that changed everything. How far can one man fall when the woman he tried to destroy is the only one powerful enough to end him? Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, please click subscribe. Every single click helps us tell stories of courage and truth. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Because when we share these stories together, we remind each other that even in pain, we can rise. The plate exploded against the marble floor, scattering rice and shame across the room. Adrian Cole, tall, neatly pressed, tie loosened, stood over his wife with the smug look of a man who carried himself like he owned the room. His voice thundered. "You think I work all day to come home to this garbage?" His 7-month pregnant wife, Hannah Cole, flinched. Her hands trembled as she tried to steady the tray. Her cheeks burned. Her heart beat so hard, the baby shifted inside her. The neighbors seated around the dining table froze, spoons half lifted. Even the chandelier seemed to hold its breath. Adrian's mother, Mrs. Cole, looked away, pretending to sip water. To her, dinner was always a test. If Hannah failed, she deserved what came next. Adrian's fists rained down on the table again. Years of cruelty, mockery, and disdain lived in that sound. He stepped closer, his shirt still crisp, breath heavy with whiskey. "You're nothing but dead weight," he hissed. "A partner shares burdens, not just benefits. What kind of wife are you?" The words cut deeper than the bruise forming on her jaw. There was blood in her mouth now, but she swallowed it with her pride. Around her, the guests looked down at their plates. Nobody wanted to get involved. Hannah's reflection in the silver tray stared back a stranger with tears in her eyes, trying to remember the girl she used to be. He had bought her flowers once, promised her forever. Now his eyes held only time's impatience, irritation, something darker. He leaned in, voice low enough for only her to hear. "If you embarrass me again, I'll make you suffer." She bit her lip. The pain steadied her. The mirror told her everything. This marriage was nothing but a prison. Adrian straightened, looked at the guests, and forced a laugh. "Sorry, folks. You know how pregnancy makes women emotional." They chuckled nervously, grateful to escape the tension. The mask of public respectability versus private cruelty stayed intact. Inside, Hannah's mind whispered, silence would no longer be weakness. She traced the edge of her napkin, already planning. "If they think I'm weak, they don't know me at all." He turned to his mother. "Mom, tell her marriage takes patience." Mrs. Cole replied softly. "A good wife endures. Be patient. Pray harder." The words landed heavier than the slap. Hannah smiled faintly, but her silence had teeth now. As Adrian walked away, his phone buzzed. He smirked, whispering, "Good night, my queen." A woman's voice, light, teasing, replied from the line. Hannah's heart stilled. She knew that perfume, that laugh. She looked down at the broken glass, then up at the doorway where her husband vanished. Her whisper barely touched the air. Tonight was only the beginning. Outside, the sound of a car door closing, the faint scent of sweet, floral, expensive perfume drifted through the open window. Monday night had just begun. The door slammed open just after 9 p.m., right on schedule. Monday. Again. Adrian Cole stepped inside, dressed sharply, tie loosened, the faint scent of sweet, floral, expensive perfume following him like a curse. Hannah, 7 months pregnant, sat by the window, pretending to read. Her heart thudded as she watched him drop his briefcase, unbutton his cuffs, and sigh that same impatience, irritation, something darker. "Why's the house so plain?" he snapped. "No warmth, no class. It's embarrassing." He walked past her, eyes scanning every corner as if the walls offended him. "You came from nothing, Hannah. You should be grateful." She closed her book gently. "Dinner's ready." He chuckled bitterly. "I'm not hungry." He poured himself a drink instead, swirling the glass, the ice clinking like a timer counting down her fear. Dinner was always a test, she thought. If she spoke, he'd say she argued. If she stayed silent, he'd say she ignored him. There was no winning. Then came the ritual, the one that broke her a little more every Monday. Adrian grabbed her wrist suddenly. "Why is your phone face down?" "I wasn't using it." "Liar. You dare spy on me? Nosy little rat." He flung the phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. His fists rained down not to kill, but to remind. She didn't scream. She never did. Outside, curtains stayed drawn. Lights stayed dim. Nobody wanted to get involved. When it was over, he straightened his shirt, carrying himself like a man who owned the room. He looked into her trembling face and said softly, "Don't shame our family. A good wife endures. Be patient." He left her on the floor. Hannah sat in the corner, blood in her mouth, one hand over her belly. The baby kicked once, almost as if asking, "Why are we still here?" Her eyes drifted to the mirror on the opposite wall. The mirror told her everything, a swollen lip, bruised cheek, and a woman she no longer recognized. She whispered, "They think I'm broken." Then she reached for her old phone on the counter, opened the recorder app, and pressed the red button. "Day 1, she whispered. "Silence will no longer be weakness." She recorded the sound of her breath, the silence, the hum of the refrigerator. Proof that this moment happened. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was collecting. The sound of a text alert broke the silence. Adrian's phone, still on the counter, buzzed. A message glowed across the cracked screen. "Missed you tonight. Next Monday. Same place. Sweet dreams, my king." Her pulse froze. Perfume. The same one. She stared at the phone, tears sliding silently down her face. And then she whispered, "Next Monday. I'll be ready." Outside, the headlights of Adrian's car flicked on again. He wasn't done for the night. A faint voice answered his call, laughing softly. "I'll wear that dress you like." The smell hit her first, that same sweet, floral, expensive perfume that didn't belong to her. It clung to Adrian's jacket, stronger than cologne, sharper than memory. He walked into the kitchen as if nothing had happened, shirt still crisp, humming softly, his phone glowing in his hand. Hannah, 7 months pregnant, stood near the sink, holding a towel against her split lip. Her face was pale, her shoulders trembling, but her eyes were no longer empty. "Who's she?" she asked quietly. Adrian paused mid-scroll. "Who's who?" "The one who sends you messages. The one who calls you her king." He chuckled, slow and cruel. "You've been checking my phone now? You dare spy on me? Nosy little rat." Before she could speak, his hand shot out. The slap landed across her cheek, sharp enough to make her knees buckle. "Don't ask me stupid questions," he snapped. Her palm touched her face, the bruise already darkening. He leaned close, voice coated in venom. "I could have married someone from a better family, someone with class, but I settled for you." Then he whispered almost gently, "Remember, a good wife endures." And he left the room, whistling. Hannah stayed frozen, staring at the half-empty wine glass he left behind. The red liquid shimmered under the kitchen light, like blood in her mouth, like a mirror of her pain. She pressed her hand to her belly, whispering, "You're not alone. I promise you'll never feel this again." She limped to the small guest room, closed the door, and slid her phone from her pocket. The cracked screen blinked to life. She opened the recorder app. "Day 2, she whispered, voice shaking. "He came home smelling of another woman. He said, I should be grateful." She saved the file, renamed it Proof. She lifted her gaze to the mirror. The mirror told her everything, her swollen lip, the quiet fire in her eyes, and something new, resolve. In that reflection, she saw not weakness, but a plan forming. Her silence turned into power. Her silence had teeth now. She opened the wardrobe to fetch a clean shirt, and that's when she saw it. Inside Adrian's suit pocket lay a small white envelope. The handwriting on it was delicate and unfamiliar. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a note written in pink ink. "You're perfect when you're cruel. See you next Monday, my love." Her breath caught. She turned it over, lipstick print sealed the back. Her stomach twisted. The knife of betrayal had no blade, yet it cut deeper than any wound. She slid the note into her journal, hiding it behind a folded hospital bill. Betrayal wrapped itself around her throat like a rope. She whispered, "If he wants Monday, he'll get it." A shadow flickered across the window, Adrian's car headlights sweeping past as he drove away again. On his passenger seat, a woman laughed softly into the phone. "Don't forget the papers, darling. She'll sign anything you put in front of her. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please take a second to do it now. Every click, every share, every comment helps us keep telling stories that give strength to women and children who've been broken, forgotten, or silenced. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel, you're standing beside survivors, saying their stories matter. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story that could change a life. And in the comments, tell us, where are you watching from? And what part of this story spoke to your heart? The printer hummed inside Adrian's private study, a sound too calm for the evil it birthed. Stacks of documents lay open across the desk. The top page bore her name, Hannah Cole, signature perfectly replicated. Across from him sat Reed Walker, a lean man with cautious eyes and ink-stained fingers. He was Adrian's personal accountant, loyal only to money. "You're sure she won't find out?" Reed asked quietly. "She's too weak," Adrian replied, smirking. "She can barely cook dinner, let alone read a trust agreement." The printer spat out another page, forged documents, fake notary stamps, and account transfers. "Once she signs these," Adrian said, "the company shares go to me, and the inheritance," he paused, smiling, "will be redirected to a private account in Dubai." Iris Lane, the secret lover, leaned against the bookshelf, crossing her legs. Her voice was silk with poison. "She's a burden, darling. Dead weight. You're just taking what's rightfully yours." Reed frowned. "This is still fraud, Mr. Cole." Adrian leaned forward, voice lowering. "Then you'd better not get caught." In the next room, Hannah folded laundry in silence. Every Monday, his lies grew bolder, louder, clearer. She noticed new papers in his briefcase last night, documents marked with her name, but not her handwriting. Her pulse quickened. She moved quietly to his office door. Through the thin wall, she heard whispering, the sound of perfume and betrayal. "Iris, make sure she signs without reading. Pretend it's a hospital form. Adrian, she'll sign anything I hand her." Betrayal wrapped itself around her throat like a rope. She took a shaky breath, hands trembling, pressing her ear closer. The baby moved again, as if warning her. When the printer stopped, Adrian's tone turned cold. "We're almost done. I'll get her signature tonight." Iris smiled. "And then, she's nothing. Once the papers are signed, she won't see it coming." The folder snapped shut. The sound felt like a coffin closing. Hannah stepped back from the door, pulse hammering. She gripped the railing, dizzy. Her father's portrait hung on the wall, a reminder of the man who had built the empire Adrian now tried to steal. She whispered to the picture, "Dad, did you know they'd do this to me?" Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed calm. "You taught me patience. You taught me silence. But now, silence will have a voice." She turned toward the stairs, determination straightening her back. The fear that once paralyzed her now hardened into quiet, dangerous strength. Downstairs, Adrian and Iris laughed over glasses of wine. "Sweet dreams, my queen," Adrian said mockingly. "I'll toast to your freedom," Iris purred. Upstairs, Hannah opened her drawer and took out her phone. The screen blinked red. She pressed record. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. Tomorrow was Monday, and Monday meant violence. But this time, it would be recorded. The sound of glass shattering silenced the entire restaurant. Every head turned toward Adrian Cole, who stood beside the table, his hand still trembling from the force of his slap. Across from him, Hannah, 7 months pregnant, sat frozen. Her cheek burned, her vision blurred, her trembling hand clutched the edge of the table for balance. "You think you can question me in public?" Adrian shouted. "After everything I've done for you?" He carried himself like a man who owned the room, dressed sharply, tie loosened. But behind the smooth tone was something darker, a man addicted to control. The diner stared in stunned silence. A waiter dropped his tray. Cameras clicked quietly from nearby phones. Adrian tossed a brown envelope onto the table. "You wanted independence? Here it is." The envelope slid toward her. On it was a single word written in black ink. "Divorce." "You're nothing but dead weight, Hannah," he sneered. "Not a wife, not a partner, just a burden dragging me down." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She had cried enough for 10 lifetimes. He leaned closer, his whisper meant to wound. "I need a wife who lifts me, not one who buries me in ashes." A few guests gasped. Others turned away, whispering behind menus. Public humiliation. That was his goal, and he succeeded. Hannah's hands trembled, her heartbeat thudding against her ribs. She stared at the envelope, then slowly looked up. "You said forever once," she said quietly. "Forever ends when patience runs out," he replied coldly. The waiter approached awkwardly, whispering, "Sir, please." Adrian waved him off. "She needs to learn respect." The noise around them faded. All she heard was her breathing, the slow inhale of a woman learning to survive the fire meant to destroy her. In her mind, her father's voice echoed, "The moment they think you're broken, destiny prepares your rise." She touched her belly gently. "We'll be fine," she whispered. Then, calm as moonlight, she gathered the envelope, folded it, and placed it into her purse. "Thank you," she said softly. For the first time, Adrian hesitated. "Thank you? For what?" "For showing me exactly what you are." She stood slowly, every eye on her, and turned toward the door. Her silence turned into power. As she reached the exit, the manager whispered, "Ma'am, do you need us to call the police?" She smiled faintly. "Not yet." Outside, the night air felt clear, sharp, alive. Her reflection in the glass door looked stronger than before. She whispered to herself, "Silence has teeth now." Then she opened her purse, slipped her phone halfway out, and pressed record. From across the street, a black car idled. Inside, a woman with sweet, floral, expensive perfume lifted her phone and snapped a picture of Hannah walking away. She smiled. She won't see it coming. The doorbell rang 3 times, sharp and deliberate. Hannah froze mid-step. It was too late for visitors. Her bruises still ached, her eyes swollen from another Monday beating. She opened the door cautiously. A tall man in a navy suit stood there, John Myers, a composed lawyer with tired eyes and a calm voice that carried quiet authority. "Mrs. Cole?" "Yes?" "Your neighbor, Mrs. Gray, called me. She said you might need help." For a moment, Hannah hesitated. No one ever said the word help to her, without pity. But John didn't look pitying. He looked determined. He stepped inside. His gaze scanned the living room. Curtains stayed drawn. Lights stayed dim. A quiet house filled with loneliness as a teacher. On the table lay the envelope marked "Divorce." John's tone stayed professional. "Do you mind telling me what happened?" Her voice cracked slightly. "He hit me again." He nodded slowly, setting down his briefcase. "Then we'll start with that." He opened a folder, legal forms, affidavits, blank witness statements. "I can help you, Mrs. Cole, but I'll need proof." Hannah's trembling hands slid a phone across the table. "I recorded it. Every Monday." John tapped play. Through the static came Adrian's voice. "You dare spy on me? Nosy little rat. You're dead weight, Hannah." Then, the sound of the slap. John exhaled slowly. This is enough to start a case." He glanced at the bruises near her jaw. "He's powerful, isn't he?" "He thinks he is," she said quietly. John studied her for a moment. Beneath the bruises, he saw quiet, dangerous strength. She wasn't fragile, she was focused. "You'll need to prepare yourself," he said softly. "Men like him. They retaliate." "He already has," she replied. She reached into her purse, pulling out the folder Adrian had forced her to sign days ago. "He said it was paperwork for the hospital. I think it's forged." John flipped through the pages, his expression tightening. "Forged documents. This isn't a hospital form. he said. This is a trust transfer. Hannah's heart pounded. My father's trust? Yes. And it's not just your name missing, it's replaced with his. Silence filled the room. The weight of betrayal pressed against her chest like a stone. John closed the folder carefully. Mrs. Cole, he's committing fraud. But if we move too soon, he'll destroy the evidence. Her voice steadied. Then wait. John nodded. I'll start tracing his bank records. But you start recording everything. Voices, documents, even phone calls. She looked up, eyes shining with quiet fire. I already have. Every word. John's gaze softened. Good. Silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. As John left, a car engine started outside. Through the window, Hannah saw a flash of blonde hair, Iris Lane, sitting in the passenger seat of Adrian's car. The lawyer's words echoed in her head. Men like him always have partners and accomplices. The doorbell rang again, this time softer, hesitant. When Hannah opened it, her sister Elaine stood there, holding a basket of fruit and wearing a smile too polished to be real. Hannah, you look pale, Elaine said, stepping inside without being invited. You shouldn't stay alone in this big house. It's depressing. Hannah didn't reply. Her cheek was still slightly bruised, her belly heavy with the 7-month child growing inside her. She leaned against the wall, her voice quiet. Why are you really here, Elaine? Elaine placed the basket on the table, glancing at the curtains that stayed drawn. Mom asked me to check on you. You know she worries. Hannah almost laughed. She worries about appearances, not bruises. Elaine sighed dramatically. You should try to be patient with Adrian. Marriage is not easy. Don't shame our family. A good wife endures. The words tasted familiar, the same poison wrapped in sisterly concern. Hannah folded her arms. So you came to preach endurance? No, Elaine said softly, eyes darting to the stack of documents on the table. I came to help. I heard Adrian's business is in trouble. Maybe I could speak to him? Something darker flickered in her tone, curiosity mixed with opportunity. Later that afternoon, while Hannah rested upstairs, Elaine's phone buzzed. Adrian's name flashed on the screen. Did she say anything? He asked. She's quiet, distant, Elaine whispered, glancing up the stairs. You sure she doesn't know? Not yet, he replied coldly. But make sure she trusts you. We need her signature. Elaine hesitated. And what do I get for helping you? You'll get what you've always wanted, Adrian said. The life she never deserved. Her fingers trembled, but greed steadied them. When the call ended, she looked around Hannah's house, the framed photographs, the baby clothes, the gentle calm. For a moment, guilt crossed her face. Then it vanished. She picked up the envelope. John had left the one labeled evidence. She didn't open it. She only took a photo. Upstairs, Hannah stared at the ceiling. Loneliness became a teacher. She had sensed Elaine's distance for years, sibling rivalry, fake concern, character assassination dressed as pity. Still, she whispered to herself, if they think I'm weak, they don't know me at all. Her phone buzzed a message from John. We traced the transfers. Adrian bribed someone close to your family. Her heart clenched. Elaine, she whispered. That evening, Elaine returned downstairs, acting casual. I'll come by again tomorrow, she said sweetly. You always come on Mondays, Hannah replied, watching her carefully. Elaine froze for a second. Then she smiled too brightly. Coincidence. The silence between them turned into a blade. As Elaine drove off, her phone buzzed again. A new message appeared, this time from Iris Lane. Tell Adrian the accountant is ready. She'll sign soon. From her window, Hannah watched the taillights fade and whispered, next Monday. The mask cracks. The printer roared to life inside John Meyer's downtown office. Pages slid out fast, each one stamped with her father's seal. Hannah Cole stood beside him, heart pounding. John's voice was sharp. You need to see this, Hannah. It changes everything. He handed her a document titled, Addendum to Trust, Clause 14b. At the bottom, written in her late father's neat handwriting, were the words, Upon birth of Hannah's child, controlling interest of Ward Industries transfers to her and her offspring. Her breath caught. That means? It means you own everything, John said quietly. Adrian's forged papers are worthless, but if he finds out first, he'll destroy every trace. The room fell silent except for the faint buzz of the printer. Hannah's hands trembled. She felt the baby move tiny but strong, as if it already understood the weight of legacy. "He always said my father left me nothing," she whispered. John looked at her. "Your father left you protection." This clause was buried on purpose. Hannah sat slowly, staring at the papers spread across the desk. Wealth and power, inheritance, legacy, trust, estate protection. All the words Adrian used to mock her with were now the very keys to his downfall. Her father's voice echoed from years ago. "True strength is quiet, Hannah. Protect what is yours, but don't announce it." Tears slid down her cheek. For the first time in months, they weren't from pain, they were from purpose. "He tried to strip me of dignity," she said softly, "but my father prepared for this." John nodded. "That's why we need to move carefully. The clause will trigger only when the child is born. Until then, we gather evidence, forged signatures, bank records, emails, collusion proof." She exhaled, the sound steady. "So we wait." He met her eyes. "You sure you can?" "Silence isn't surrender. It's strategy." John almost smiled. "You're stronger than most people I know." Back at home that night, Hannah spread the documents on her kitchen table. The mirror told her everything, the bruises fading, the calm forming, the spark returning. She whispered to her unborn child, "The moment they think you're broken, destiny prepares your rise." Knock startled her. A manila envelope slid under the door, no name, no return address. Inside, photographs of her talking to John Myers. A note in pink ink read, "You should be careful who you trust." Her blood ran cold. Across town, Iris Lane poured wine beside Adrian. "Your wife's been busy," she said, showing him the same photographs on her phone. Adrian's smile curved, slow, dangerous. "Then we speed things up. Next Monday, she signs or she bleeds." The clock struck midnight. Hannah sat alone, the papers before her glowing under the lamplight. She whispered, "If they want Monday, they'll get Monday, but not the one they expect." The front door burst open. Adrian Cole stumbled in, fury dripping from every step. Rain clung to his shirt, his tie half torn, eyes wild. "Where is it, Hannah?" he shouted. "Who gave you the nerve to see a lawyer?" Hannah Cole, 7 months pregnant, stood in the living room holding a mug of tea that trembled in her hands. Her heart thudded, but her face stayed calm. "You're drunk," she said. "Drunk? No, I'm awake now," he snarled. "I know you've been plotting against me." He slammed the mug from her grasp. It shattered across the tile. The sound of breaking glass echoed like thunder. Adrian's breath reeked of whiskey and sweet, floral, expensive perfume. Iris's scent, always following him like guilt. He grabbed Hannah's wrist. "Tell me what John Myers knows." "He knows you forged my signature," she answered softly. His hand froze midair. For a second, fear flickered across his face. Then rage returned. "You recorded me? You think you're smart?" "No," she whispered. "I just finally learned to listen." He struck her again, the slap. Sharp, cruel, deliberate. She stumbled but didn't fall. "You'll sign everything tonight," he growled. "Or Monday you won't wake up to see that baby." She touched her cheek. Blood in her mouth. The mirror across. The hall caught her reflection, pale, calm, eyes like steel. The mirror told her everything. Every Monday, he beat her to please his lover. Every Monday, she played the fool. But tonight, the script changed. Hidden in the flower vase on the shelf, a small camera blinked red, recording everything. Proof written on her skin, proof in her house, proof in her silence. She forced her voice to steady. "Sit down, Adrian. I'll sign whatever you want." He smirked, believing her fear. Charming abuser. Overconfident. Hubris. He sat. That's better. A wife who finally listens. Her hands shook as she signed one fake page after another, the pen moving slowly so the camera could see. When he wasn't looking, she slipped one sheet beneath the pile, a signed affidavit John had prepared that morning. It read, "I, Hannah Cole, declare these documents were signed under duress." The room grew still. Adrian looked pleased with himself. He poured a drink, whistling. Hannah stood behind him, watching the clock. Every tick felt louder, a countdown to the moment truth would break. She picked up her phone from the counter and sent a single text to John. "It's done. The trap is set." Her thumbs shook, but her heart did not. Silence had teeth now. Adrian turned suddenly. "Who are you texting?" "No one," she said softly, slipping the phone into her dress pocket. He smiled, poured another glass, and raised it like a toast. To new beginnings, my queen. From outside, two figures waited in the dark car across the street, John and Detective Ruiz, watching through the window as the red light of the camera flickered. Inside the car, John whispered, "Is greater than." "Tomorrow we deliver the proof," Ruiz replied. "Is greater than." Let him enjoy his last Monday. Upstairs, Hannah pressed her hand to her belly and murmured, "Next Monday, justice comes home." The sirens cut through the night just as Adrian lifted his glass. Two squad cars stopped in front of the mansion, blue, lights flashing against the marble walls. Adrian Cole, startled, looked through the window. "What now?" he muttered. Then came the knock, 3 heavy pounds that made the chandelier tremble. Hannah Cole stood by the staircase, her face calm, her belly round, her phone still in her hand. The clock on the wall struck midnight. Adrian shouted, "Who's banging on my door?" The door swung open. Detective Ruiz, stern-faced and deliberate, stepped inside with John Myers, holding a folder thick with evidence. "Mr. Cole," Ruiz said flatly, "you're under investigation for assault, forgery, and fraud." Adrian's smirk faltered. "Excuse me?" John placed the folder on the table. "Photographs of bruises, audio recordings of your threats, copies of forged documents, bank records, all signed, all verified." Hannah stepped forward slowly. "You always said I was weak, but weakness doesn't collect evidence." "You think anyone will believe this?" Adrian barked, voice cracking. "I'm respected in this community." John's tone was calm. "A good man doesn't kick his wife. A good man doesn't steal. A good man doesn't betray his vows." Adrian's hands trembled. The charm drained from his face, replaced by fear. He turned toward Hannah. "You planned this?" "No," she said softly. "You trained me for this." Ruiz read him his rights while John spread the documents on the table, each one glowing beneath the warm chandelier light. The folder, the forged signatures, the bank transfers, the proof written on her skin, everything connected now. Hannah watched in silence, her heartbeat steady. The woman who once sat crying on a kitchen floor now stood upright in the home that once felt like a cage. Her father's words echoed again. "Integrity is wealth they can't steal." John whispered beside her. "It's almost over." She nodded. "No," she said quietly. "It's just beginning." She looked at Adrian as officers cuffed him. "You told me to endure." "I did. Now it's your turn." He tried to speak, but Ruiz's voice cut through the room. "You can explain at the station." As they led him away, Iris Lane appeared in the doorway, wearing her usual sweet, floral, expensive perfume, eyes wide with disbelief. "Adrian? You?" he shouted. "You betrayed me!" Ruiz turned to her. "Miss Lane, you're part of this. You'll answer questions too." Her painted smile collapsed. For once, the mask of respectability versus private cruelty shattered. Outside, reporters began gathering camera flashes, microphones, whispers. The perfect facade of their marriage was gone. John whispered, "They'll swarm by morning." Hannah looked through the window and said quietly, "Let them. I have nothing left to hide." Across the street, a journalist snapped the first photo of Adrian in handcuffs. The headline would hit by dawn, "Community hero arrested for domestic assault and fraud," and Hannah's calm voice would echo beneath it, "Truth always finds light." The flash of cameras exploded like lightning across the courthouse steps. Adrian Cole was shoved forward in handcuffs, his once proud suit wrinkled, his eyes hollow. Reporters swarmed from every side, shouting questions that sliced through the cold morning air. "Mr. Cole, is it true you forged your wife's signature? Did you embezzle from Ward Industries? Who is Iris Lane?" Hannah Cole, 7 months pregnant, stepped out moments later, calm as dawn. The crowd fell silent for a heartbeat. She wore no jewelry, no makeup, only quiet strength and dignity that drew every camera toward her. Public humiliation, media frenzy, headlines waiting to write themselves. A reporter pushed forward. "Mrs. Cole, is it true your husband beat you every Monday night?" Her eyes didn't flinch. "You've already seen the evidence," the crowd murmured. Behind her, Iris Lane, the once secret lover, tried to shield. Her face, sunglasses trembling in her hand. Sweet, floral, expensive perfume couldn't mask the scent of fear. "Adrian," she whispered, Say something." He turned to her with venom. "You ruined me." Hannah's voice cut through the chaos. "No, Adrian, you ruined yourself." The courthouse stairs had become a stage. Cameras flashed. People who once called Adrian a good man now whispered, "Monster." Public mask versus private pain, image versus reality. His perfect facade crumbled in real time. Mrs. Cole, the mother-in-law who once told Hannah, "A good wife endures," stood off to the side, pale, shaking. For the first time, she couldn't meet Hannah's eyes. Hannah paused at the bottom step, turning to face the microphones. "You all praised a man who looked successful, charming, respectable. But success means nothing without integrity. A good man doesn't kick his wife. A good man doesn't steal. A good man doesn't lie." The crowd fell silent. Tears glistened, but not from shame. They were tears of release. Her silence turned into power. Her patience had become a weapon. John Myers, standing nearby, whispered, "The judge saw everything. Tomorrow, the hearing begins." Hannah nodded. "Let the truth speak." As Adrian was led toward the waiting van, he shouted one last time, "You think this ends with me, Hannah? You think you've won?" She looked at him steadily. "No, I think justice just started walking." Iris stepped backward, paparazzi flashes burning her skin. Her voice cracked. "They'll forget about this, Adrian. They always do." But even she didn't believe it. The judge's aide stepped forward, handing John a sealed envelope. The court requested this be delivered privately to Mrs. Cole. John opened it, reading silently, his face shifting from calm to shock. Hannah frowned. "What is it?" John looked up. It's not over yet." The cameras kept flashing. Hannah's heartbeat slowed. "Then tomorrow," she whispered, "we finish it in court." Inside the courthouse window, the judge's silhouette moved past the blinds, holding a thick file stamped Case 314 Ward Industries. Tomorrow's hearing wouldn't just decide a marriage, it would decide an empire. The gavel struck once, echoing like thunder through the packed courtroom. Reporters filled the back row. Cameras blinked like restless eyes. Adrian Cole stood beside his lawyer, wrists trembling, his once crisp suit now wrinkled with sweat. Across the aisle sat Hannah Cole, 7 months pregnant, calm, her hands folded over her belly. The marble clock above the bench ticked louder than breath. Judge Hamilton, stern and silver-haired, adjusted his glasses. "This court will hear evidence in Cole v. Cole. Case 314, charges of assault, forgery, and corporate fraud." John Myers rose. "Your Honor, we present photographs of bruises, audio recordings of threats, and forged documents linking the defendant to the theft of his wife's inheritance." The clerk displayed the exhibits on the screen. Adrian's own voice filled the room. "You're dead weight, Hannah. You'll sign what I tell you to sign." A gasp rippled through the audience. Public mask versus private cruelty shattered. Adrian's lawyer jumped up. "Those recordings are doctored," John replied evenly. "Then explain the bank records, sir." The transfers went straight to an offshore account under Iris Lane Holdings. All eyes turned to Iris Lane. She sat stiffly, sweet floral perfume drifting faintly, face drained of color. "He said it was an investment," she whispered. "Investment or collusion?" the judge asked. Her silence answered. Hannah's heartbeat thudded, but she stayed still. This wasn't revenge, it was accountability. For years, she'd lived beneath his shadow, humiliated, belittled, told to endure. Now truth stood on her side of the table. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Cole, these are your signatures?" I don't recall." "You recall the slap," John said quietly. Adrian's jaw clenched. "I was angry. A good man doesn't kick his wife," the judge thundered. The room erupted, reporters scribbling, whispers rushing like wind. Adrian tried to speak, but his voice broke. For the first time, he looked small. Hannah inhaled deeply. Silence turned into power. Judge Hamilton raised the final sheet, a notarized affidavit Hannah had slipped into the stack the night of the trap. "Signed under duress," he read aloud. "Brilliant foresight, Mrs. Cole," John added. "And there's one more document. Your Honor, the hidden trust clause her late father left behind." Murmurs spread. "Clause 14B," John continued, "transfers full control of Ward Industries worth $10 billion to Mrs. Cole upon the child's birth." Adrian's face went white. "That's impossible." "It's justice," Hannah said softly. The judge struck the gavel again. This court finds Adrian Cole guilty of fraud and domestic assault. Sentencing to follow. As for the estate, ownership will be determined upon review of this final envelope. He lifted a sealed brown envelope marked Ward Industries ownership transfer. Camera flashes burst. Adrian screamed, "That's mine!" The judge's voice cut through him. "No, Mr. Cole. For the first time, it's hers." The gavel slammed once, final, echoing. Hannah's lips parted, but before she could breathe out, the judge's clerk whispered something in his ear. He frowned. "Wait, there's a new amendment we haven't seen." John glanced at Hannah. "Whatever's inside that envelope, it changes everything." The judge broke the seal. The courtroom lights flickered, then silence. The courtroom froze as the judge's hands hovered over the brown envelope. Every camera blinked. Every breath waited. Judge Hamilton broke the seal slowly. Inside were a few sheets yellowed by time, stamped with Ward Industries' original crest. He read silently at first, then looked up, stunned. This changes everything." Adrian Cole leaned forward, desperate. "What does it say?" Hannah Cole, 7 months pregnant, didn't move. Her calm was the loudest thing in the room. The judge cleared his throat. Clause 14B, Addendum, written and signed by the late Robert Ward, Mrs. Cole's father. It states, "In the event of fraud or abuse toward my daughter or her unborn child, the entire Ward estate assets totaling $10 billion shall transfer solely to her name, effective immediately." Gasps filled the chamber. Reporters swarmed, whispering, camera flashes igniting like lightning. John Myers smiled faintly, whispering, "Your father protected you better than any law could." Adrian's face went pale. "No, it's forged. It's a trick," John replied coolly. "You'd know all about forgery, wouldn't you?" The audience chuckled. Even the judge's lips twitched. Hannah exhaled softly, her eyes glistening, not with pride, but relief. Years of cruelty, mockery, and disdain now melted into quiet vindication. She touched her belly gently, whispering, "Dad kept his promise." The judge continued reading. Further clause, "Any individual proven complicit in coercion, falsification, or domestic harm shall forfeit rights to all corporate and financial holdings connected to this trust." John looked at the defense table. "That means you too, Miss Lane." Iris Lane gasped, her composure cracking. Sweet, floral, expensive perfume lingered as she slumped into her chair. "He told me she was nothing," she whispered. Hannah's voice was steady. "He lied to us both." The crowd erupted again, public mask versus private pain unfolding in real time. Adrian's downfall was no longer rumor, it was televised. Truth. He slammed his fist on the table. "You can't take everything from me." Hannah looked at him, calm as marble. "I don't have to. You gave it away the moment you tried to destroy me." Silence turned into power. The judge banged the gavel once. "Effective immediately. Ward Industries and all attached assets revert to Mrs. Cole and her unborn child. Mr. Cole, you are hereby stripped of ownership, rights, and authority." Adrian's knees buckled. Reputation collapse, public disgrace, downfall. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones swarmed. Hannah rose slowly, one hand on her belly. The light from the tall window caught her profile, a symbol of female resilience and grace under pressure. She turned toward the crowd. "This isn't about revenge, it's about justice. And justice has no price." The courtroom applauded. Even the judge nodded. John leaned toward her, voice low. "There's one more thing, Hannah. The clause names you as CEO effective immediately." Her breath caught. "CEO?" He nodded. "The board meets in 1 hour. They're waiting for you." Hannah looked at the courtroom door, sunlight spilling through the glass. "Then let's finish what he started." Outside, reporters prepared their headlines. Betrayed, wife becomes $10B CEO after courtroom victory. As Hannah stepped toward the door, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "This isn't over," she smiled faintly. "It never is." The courthouse doors burst open as Hannah Cole stepped outside, sunlight flooding her face. Reporters shouted her name from every direction. Camera flashes painted her in gold. She didn't shield her eyes. She stood tall, one hand on her belly, the other clutching the folder that held her father's legacy. Behind her, Adrian Cole was being led away in cuffs, his once polished shoes scraping the marble steps. The crowd jeered softly. Reputation collapse, public disgrace, downfall. Iris Lane, the former lover, watched from a corner, makeup streaked with tears. The sweet, floral, expensive perfume that once defined her victory now smelled like failure. John Myers, walking beside Hannah, whispered, "It's over." Hannah's eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. "No," she said quietly, "it's beginning." The crowd pressed closer, microphones outstretched. "Mrs. Cole, how does it feel to be the new CEO of Ward Industries? What do you want the public to learn from this?" She smiled faintly. "That silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. The moment they think you're broken, destiny prepares your rise." The words rippled through the crowd. Reporters froze mid-sentence. She walked toward the courthouse steps slowly, memories flashing like old film reels. The slap, the bruises, the mockery, the nights of sweet perfume and betrayal. All of it behind her now, yet each scar a sentence in her victory speech. Public mask versus private pain, image versus reality. Every Monday he had beaten her to please his lover, and every Monday she had endured. But this Monday, the world saw who he truly was. John stopped at the car door, turning to her. "The board is waiting. They'll vote you in officially today. Let them wait a little longer," she said softly. She looked up at the sky, clear, sharp, alive, and breathed. For the first time, the air didn't hurt. Inside the courthouse, she could still hear Adrian's voice echo faintly. "You're dead weight," she smiled. "Not anymore." Female resilience, calm strength, quiet triumph. Her father's name engraved on the folder glimmered in the sun. She placed a hand on her belly again. "You'll inherit more than money," she whispered. "You'll inherit truth." John held the door open. "Ready?" She nodded. "Always." As she entered the car, a young female reporter shouted, "Mrs. Cole, one last question. If you could say anything to your husband right now, what would it be?" Hannah paused, glancing back at the flashing lights and microphones. Her voice was soft but carried like thunder. "Tell him I forgave him the moment I stopped needing his approval." The cameras clicked wildly. The car door closed. The engine started. Through the tinted window, sunlight fell across her calm face. In the reflection of the glass, the bruises were gone. Only strength remained. As the car disappeared into traffic, the city skyline gleamed like possibility. A billboard overhead displayed the words, "Ward Industries, a new era begins." And somewhere in the crowd, a voice whispered, "She turned silence into an empire." Fade out.